Nick Price has been winning tournaments around the world for more than 20 years. He's won 3 majors since 1992. He's on everyone's short list of the best players in the world. Will he resume his brilliant pace after a breather in '95? Find out when you meet him tonight on Golf Talk Live. Welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm Peter Kessler. Nick Price understands what Bobby Jones must have gone through when people expected him to win all of the time. In Jones's case, with no more worlds left to conquer, he retired. In Price's case, with many worlds left to conquer, he took a breather. The breather is over. The distractions have been sorted out, the international obligations completed. He's ready to resume his assault on major championships. He builds his season around them now. He had his barren stretch, and he learned how to win in the big events with the great pressure and best fields. Nick Price is not only one of the nice guys on the planet, he's one of the best players on it. It's his world, it's his time. We've been aware of Nick Price's credentials and potential ever since 1982, when he should have won his first British Open. A native of Durban, South Africa, he grew up playing junior golf with Dennis Watson and David Ledbetter. He won the Junior World at Torrey Pines at 17 and his first pro event in Africa in 1979. After his heartbreaking finish at the 82 British Open, we saw him win the 83 World Series of Golf. After losing to Seve Ballesteros in the 88 British Open, where both men played brilliantly, he began an incredible and dazzling climb to the top of the golf world. He started his phenomenal streak on this continent in 1991 with wins at the Canadian Open and Byron Nelson. In 1992, he earned his first major, the PGA Championship. He won a mere 13 titles in 1993 and 94 around the world, including his long-awaited first British Open and second PGA Championship back-to-back. He won 3 tour titles in consecutive starts and PGA Player of the Year awards in both seasons. His swing has a confident and aggressive tempo. His personal life is in full bloom, and he's a man with the opportunity to be ranked with the all-time greats. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Peter.
I know you're a little under the weather, but they always say never bet against a man during a tournament who doesn't feel very well.
Touch of the flu, I think maybe brought on by Sunday playing in the wet down at the Honda, or maybe the cold temperatures yesterday, I don't know.
So that means what, 22 or 24 under par this week kind of thing?
That I'd take without even putting my golf clubs out this week.
When you get to go back home to Zimbabwe, what of course was once Rhodesia, you like to get out to the Eastern Highlands and fish. What's that whole place like, and what does it do for you?
Well, I think it's pretty difficult to explain unless you've been to Africa. Africa has its own aura that you have to experience to really appreciate. And I was fortunate enough to be was born out there and brought up out there, and I love it. I miss it a lot when I'm over here, but you know, it's one of those places that once you get Africa in your blood, as they say, you never lose it. And although I've been very fortunate over the years to come over here and play golf and all around the world, Zimbabwe is still my home. It's very different. We've got a big change in our country from the west, which is very low-lying, up to the eastern highlands in the east, which are our mountains. And we've got a lot of wild game, just an awful lot to see out there. You know, it's not just all cities and lots of people. It's a very natural country, I suppose is the best way to put it.
Great place to recharge the batteries?
It's great for me because the phones don't work too well there. So when I go back home, you know, I've got some peace and quiet for a while. But to go back and visit my friends on the farms and guys who I grew up with playing junior golf with is just something that I enjoy doing an awful lot.
You know, when I talked to David Ledbetter and Dennis Watson, who you grew up with and played junior golf with, they both assure me separately that they both killed the other two guys. What was it like to grow up with those two fellows and to hone your game against players who turned out to be pretty good?
Yeah, we had a wonderful junior golf program in the country at the time. And it's still good now. You know, it's been sort of I felt it's been my sort of duty to go back and make sure that the junior golf program carries on. And in fact, it has improved a lot because the quantity of the amount of juniors is improved, and the quality is very good as well. But growing up with those two guys, it was a real treat. There was a lot of competitiveness amongst the three of us. Mark McNulty was from there, Tony Johnson was from there, and we all, I don't know, we just loved to beat each other. That was the big thing. We wanted to get our handicaps down faster than any of the other guys. We wanted to shoot lower scores that no one else had done before. We just wanted to enjoy ourselves as well, and that was the great thing about the junior golf at the time, was the fact that we could go out there and we were on our own, and the behavior that the etiquette and just our general behavior was up to us. No one else was telling us what we should do and how we should do it, as you were told in school and with school sports. And golf wasn't very popular amongst young people at the time. All the guys who played rugby and cricket and the other games, you know, they all say, oh, no, we've got plenty of time for golf when we get to our 50s and 60s, but we're going to play rugby. And some of those guys are kicking themselves right now, you know, because, you know, I was fortunate enough to play the game, and it's a game that you can play well on until, I think, you know, your dying day, if you keep yourself in good enough shape.
Well, the guys who turned to cricket and rugby are done at 35 when you just began your most incredible run.
That's the strangest thing, I suppose. Ray Mort, who's a really talented rugby player we had come from our country, who was probably the world's best wing at one stage, probably in the mid-80s. He's now retired and coaching, and I'm just getting into my prime, and we're the same age. So, you know, I think I chose the right sport.
We're going to take a short break. We will be right back with Nick Price. If you'd like to talk with him, 1-800-842-9987. You were just 10 years old when your dad passed away. I know you had older brothers. What are your memories of your dad today, and how much of that role did your brothers assume?
Well, my eldest brother is 11 years older than I am, and my next brother up is 7 years older, so I'm still trying to get it out of my mother whether I was an afterthought or a mistake. She still won't tell me, but you know, during the time when I really needed a father, my brother was always there. Both of them were there, which is something that you know, I really appreciate and I always respect in them. But you know, not having a father is something that I still think back on frequently. You know, I just wondered if he ever knows not what I've done, but what kind of person I am more than anything else, and if he'd be proud of that. But my memories of my father, he was a military man, so he was tough, but he was also very fair, and he also had a very soft spot in him. Loved to fish, loved everything to do with the family, you know, and we'd all go. I mean, there wasn't ever once where he would go off on holiday with my mom by themselves. It was always with the family, which is something that I remember. Our family trips were very, very special, and I remember many of them. But I suppose my dad loved cricket more than anything else, and when I started playing golf, it was about a year or 18 months before he died, and we had a couple of games of golf together, and the only thing that we had in common on golf was that we were both left-handed. I switched over not long after he died because we couldn't really get left-handed clubs back home. They weren't readily available. But golf became, I suppose, to me at that stage, a way of being able to not think about the fact that I didn't have a father, and my mother kind of encouraged that. But it was a tough time in my life, and it's, I suppose, the one thing that you do when you are a family and you lose a family member at a young age. I think it makes you appreciate life so much more. There's more to life than just three-putting and getting upset about trivial things, because you know, life, you only have one innings on this planet, and you've got to make the most of it. So I learned a valuable lesson from that.
Do you believe in your heart that he somehow has watched your whole life?
I hope so. You know, deep down inside, I feel that he's somewhere up there, you know, looking and seeing what I'm doing.
What was your strongest memory of going to San Diego as a kid, and of course winning the Junior World?
That was unbelievable. I mean, you talk about a fairy tale story. I mean, there've been a lot of them happen in times, but for me to come from a country where we never had more than about 50 juniors at any one time, and to go over there, and I thought I was pretty hot back home, but when I got over there, I was playing practice rounds with guys who'd hit the ball 30 yards further than I did, putted the eyes out the ball, and they were so much bigger and stronger than I was, and to win that week was just, I don't know, it was just a blessing for me, because when I came back home, my mother and my brother, who had sort of said to me, concentrate more on your schoolwork, and maybe you'll get this golf bug out of you. You're not that good. And when I came back, it changed the attitude a little bit. They still wanted me to make sure I went through school and do the best I could. But they were so much more supportive of me at that stage. Not that they hadn't been in earlier times, but I think it was, they sort of realized that I did have potential, because I didn't know how good I was, until that happened. And it was probably one of the greatest thrills of my life.
We're going to go ahead and talk to one of our viewers. We've got Paul on the phone. How are you tonight, Paul?
How are you doing?
Doing fine.
Great program.
Thank you.
Nick, go back to the '88 British Open final afternoon. Can you tell us what was actually going through your mind, not what was going through David? Talk about the playing. Thanks.
Well, it was a great day. It was a great week for me, and obviously I had a little bit to prove to myself and to my critics, because having not played well down the last 5 holes of the British Open in 1982, I had to prove to myself that I still had the game and the ability to go ahead and win. And to go head-to-head with Seve when he's playing his best golf is something that's very difficult. And I knew it early on in that round. I think it was after the 6th hole, Seve and I separated ourselves from the rest of the field, and we knew that one of us was going to win. And what happened over the next 12 holes was probably the most exciting golf I've ever played up until that time. And we both hit the ball extremely well, and as is what happens with golf, one guy's going to make a couple more putts than the other guy, and that's what happened. And he was very gracious in winning, and he chatted to me afterwards. There was a little snippet as we started the program, and he said to me, you played really well today, and if you just carry on what you're doing, and the things are going to fall into your lap. It was a little frustrating and a little hard for me to chew on at the time, because having been close at the Masters in '86 and also at the PGA in 1985, and then having lost the British Open in '82. I was wondering when my time was going to happen, and it was a great week for me, because I left that week with a lot of confidence.
I remember Seve forgetting the birdie stretch he did towards the end of the front 9 the final day, but I remember his victory speech, how gracious he was, and said, if you keep playing this way, your time is going to come, and it did. That was a lot easier to swallow, though, than '82, even though '82 had to, in a funny way, turn out to be a good thing that you didn't win quite so early, don't you think?
It was, and I think that my career would have been a lot different had I won the '82 British Open. I was at a stage in my life and career that there were a lot of changes going on, and I think it probably things would have come a lot easier to me had I won that British Open in '82, and I just don't know if I would be the person that I am now had it happened. So 25 years old, when you play 67 really good holes in a major championship, and you're pretty much in the heat of the battle the whole way. To fail in the last 5 holes is it's not a bad thing. It's something that everyone's going to do at some stage or another in their career. So for that to happen to me at that time was probably a pretty good thing. And although, again, it was hard to stomach at the time.
I'll bet for a long time after. We'll go ahead and say hi to Vinny, who's calling us from New York. How are you tonight, Vinny?
Good, very good.
Hey, Vinny.
Hi, Nick.
What's your question?
Nick, how would it feel to win Bay Hill for one of the greatest players ever, Arnold Palmer?
Well, Arnold, and I think my respect to Arnold Palmer goes back so many years, and having lived here in Orlando for 13 of the last 14 years, it's a very, very special event to most of us who are based here in Orlando. And this is a tough golf course. Arnold is the kind of human being, I suppose, that we all look up to and respect. He's just been a figure that all of us look up to, including, I think, all the players and people from his age group. but all of us at the tournament, you know, would love to get our hands on that sword and put our name on the trophy and get the grey jacket, because you know, to be associated with Arnold Palmer and the Classic for a year is something that many of us are trying to do.
What do you think Arnold would give to have the PGA, your first major that you won in '92, the only one missing from his career slam?
It's strange how that happens, you know, but that's just a weird thing. I think Sam Snead never won the US Open,
right? Which,
you know, you look at, I think it was 60 or 70 victories on the tour, and never having won the US Open. He came close a couple of times, but I think certain players have difficulties with some championships and some tournaments. For me, Augusta's always been a little bit of a thorn in my side, although I did manage to shoot one good round around that course.
I vaguely remember that 63 10 years ago.
Yeah, I'd trade it for a green jacket tomorrow. It's you know, I think Arnold, to not have won the PGA, it's a pity, because I think only 3 people in the history of the game have won all 4 major championships, and you know, it's kind of strange that his name's not there alongside.
Especially when 2 of the other 4 guys are Gary and Jack,
exactly,
right? Which got to eat at him.
But I think, you know, Arnold's not going to have any trouble hanging up his clubs one day, and not that I ever see him hanging up his clubs, but you know, he's got a lot to be proud of, and I think the human being that he is something that's far more important than all the victories he's won, because he's like Byron Nelson and a lot of the great players. He's just a wonderful human being, and he's an absolute joy to be around him, because he's very warm.
He hasn't given up hopes, by the way. He still has, and he confirmed this to us last month, a small hole in his coffee table that he always keeps for the next medal. And he says that's for the PGA, and I'm not betting against him. We're going to take a short break. We will be right back with Nick Price. Allow me to pose a question. If you were on the final hole of the British Open and playing extremely well, at or near the lead, would you look at the leaderboard to see where you and the rest of the field stood? Jesper Parnevik didn't, and it cost him. He played the hole aggressively and made bogey. Nick Price took advantage of the young Swede's faux pas and finished eagle par to capture his first British Open, an event in 2 men's lives that can best be explained as golf's a funny, unpredictable game. I must tell you, I know about must-make par putts, I know about must-make birdie putts, but when you described your 50-footer as a must-make eagle, that was the first time I heard that expression.
Well, you know, it was just a time for me that I had one chance to win that championship that day, and you know, I wanted to get the ball up there close. I wasn't trying to make it. I mean, obviously I was trying to make it, but I wasn't trying to give it a good aggressive hit and run it 4 or 5 feet by and then 3-putt or something stupid like that. But I figured that if I could make birdie there, I'd have a chance to make birdie on the last hole, and because I had no idea what Jesper was doing, and I just hit probably one of the best, well, obviously the best putt of my life. Probably about 8 inches of break, just goes down a slope here. Then it hits a spike mark just about there and just ducks in the right edge of the hole.
How curious that you remember.
Yeah, and right at that time there, my heartbeat was probably about 250 beats a minute. And if I ever had a weak heart, I would have probably died on the spot there, because there was so much emotion in me. I wanted to show it all, but I still had a hole of golf to play. If that had happened on the 72nd hole, I probably would have run up and down the bleachers, giving everyone high fives, and I'd still be there now. But I still had a really tough hole to play, the 18th at Turnberry, and I hadn't played it particularly well the 2 days before, and I knew I had to make 4, and I probably played one of the best holes of my life, the 18th hole, under the circumstances, because I could hardly put the tee on the peg, and when I did hit that 3-iron, it went about 275 yards, which I don't think I'll ever be able to do that again.
You weren't the only one whose heart was beating fast. There were millions of people in this country who jumped out of their chairs and then had to check a minute later. Javier's on the phone. Say hello to Nick Price. Javier, are you there? Don't be shy.
Hello, Nick.
Javi, how are you?
Hi. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I just wanted to ask you that, what's your main goal for 1996? And I just wanted to see what's the tournament that you would like to win most?
Well, my goals for '96 really haven't changed that much from last year, but the major championships, I've really put my schedule, made a good, strong schedule around the major championships. For me, either the US Open or Augusta this year would be one of the tournaments or the championships that I like to win the most. I think probably Augusta right now, because that's the course that I have the toughest time on. So if I happen to win that, it would mean that I've overcome a lot of fears and a lot of doubts, and it would be another, a hurdle in my career. And that one or the US Open, though, would go down a real treat this year.
The 63 that you shot 10 years ago, of course, when Jack decided to upstage you by shooting his 65 with a 30 on the back nine to win his 6th Masters, was one of the great, great rounds. And I remember the putt on 18, and we're going to take a look at it. I remember that thing came more than 360 degrees. And what did you say at the time?
I said, well, maybe Bobby Jones didn't want me to hold it, somewhere down there. He probably had his hand probably came up and just knocked the ball out the hole, because that caught such a huge piece of the hole. And I mean, he played over and over. The ball actually crossed its line coming back out again. But I had made my fair share that day, so I couldn't be upset. I'd had, I think, 11 one-putt greens, which, for me, that's really good.
And for the rest of us, we pray for that kind of thing to happen. We're going to go ahead and say hello to Judy, who's on the phone. Judy, you're on Golf Talk Live.
Oh, Peter, I really enjoy your show.
Thank you.
And Nick, I admire you as a golfer and also as a person. And I think you're a very attractive man. And my question to you, and also to a lot of the other pro golfers, is why aren't professional golfers allowed to wear shorts in the summertime?
Oh, that's a great one. I think there's certain tournaments in Memphis in summer, and the Anheuser-Busch tournament that we have in just before the British Open in July. The Western Open, there's a couple of tournaments where it's so hot that we'd love to wear shorts. I think it stems from a policy that the tour adopted quite a long time back, is that golf professionals look smarter in long pants. But I think there's certain times of the year where I think we should be allowed to wear shorts, but again, that's a policy decision.
Going back to Augusta for just a second, the biggest change in your game, it seems to me, over the last few years has been your short game. I mean, obviously, since Bobby Grace and you ran into each other and you've been putting with the fat lady swings, your confidence, with good reason, has gone sky high. But the other parts of your short game have also improved. Isn't that what you think you needed to get over the hurdle at Augusta?
Well, yeah, that's one of the catalysts, I think, to get over that hurdle. But I put a 60-degree wedge in my bag about 3 years ago. The US Open, in fact, 4 years ago now, the US Open at Pebble Beach was I actually dropped a 2-iron and threw in a 60-degree, and that helped me an awful lot, because it just, enlarged, I suppose, or gave me a bigger repertoire around the greens. And for someone who wasn't really born with a lot of imagination around the greens, and guys like Sevi, and there are a lot of other guys who just naturally see shots that it takes me forever to find. But
you're so modest.
Well, it's the truth, though, because guys, it depends, I think, on where you grow up as well. I grew up on basically municipal or daily fee type of golf courses, and the difficulty that I had was that you were very stereotyped in the type of shots that you would play around the green. So when I went overseas, when I went to play in the British Amateur in 1975 and the British Open that year, I was learning a whole new, it was a whole new experience for me. Whereas guys who grew up on courses that were perhaps lent themselves more to having a short game, a variation of shots in the short game, it seemed to come more naturally to them. But my short game's improved over the last 5 years, probably fourfold, and I think that's the reason. That was the last straw for me, or the catalyst that got me over the hurdle to start winning again. And it was just so much fun when I started making those putts, because for so long I hadn't been making those putts. But I revamped my putting stroke, I revamped my dress position, I revamped a lot of things, because I knew that what I had wasn't working. In fact, the British Open in '88 was one of also the keys to me doing that, because under pressure I just felt that I wasn't making the putts, and I didn't feel that it was nerves or an apprehension deep down, because I wanted to make those putts so badly. But there was something wrong in the stroke or in my approach or whatever it might have been. But I had to revamp things if I was going to start winning consistently.
You too can work on your game. We will be right back with Nick Price, 1-800-842-9987 if you want to talk to him.